Sporting Journal Radio, presented by Onyx.
Well, every year, it's a huge event up in Brainerd with thousands of people getting on the ice. It's always talked about around the world. The rest of the world, their heads explode when they think about the Brainerd Jaycee's ice fishing extravaganza in that big tournament. 20,000 holes drilled through the ice for that. A slew of volunteers and a bunch of augers. And Jamie Dietman was there, and he joins us now on the show to talk about that. And he's also going to give us a Brainerd Lakes area fishing report. Jamie, are your arms, have you recovered from drilling holes yet?
They're finally getting back to normal, but it took a few days.
That's quite an undertaking, drilling that many holes like that. How many do you think you did?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I gave up at about 250.
Okay, that's a lot.
I've been out there for 20 years probably and never had to drill holes. But this year, being we were doing it for the first time with electric augers and trying to experiment with some stuff and get some baselines down on what we need for future years, we all chipped in and drilled. And yeah, it's a lot of work.
So it was the Strike. You were using a Strike Master lithium this year?
Yep. So we had Strike Master 40 volts and we had 60 augers and 240 batteries.
240 batteries, 60 augers to do 2,000 holes. Wow.
20,000 holes. And then we had to try to time our charging right because it takes about 2.5 hours to charge a battery. But our power supply wasn't quite good enough, so it was taking longer. But we got it done before sundown, and it all worked. I
suppose you would have just had generators out there to charge them, I bet, hey?
Yep, we need a little bit bigger power grid for next year. But now we have a baseline where we had 16 inches of ice, 0-degree weather. So now we know if we have colder weather, more ice, how much we have to add to that to deal with next year.
So overall, the augers held up pretty well?
They did very well. I think we had 2 go down. When you drill 200 holes straight without a break, they get pretty hot.
Yeah,
but
I bet any
that's
auger
nothing
buddy.
that they're ever going to go through that again.
Yeah.
But it went really well.
Oh, I drill 200 holes all the time in a row every time I go fishing. Hole hopping.
Yeah, most people say every time they go out, they drill 100 holes. So.
Yeah, right. How'd the tournament go overall?
Good. I've heard reports of 9,000 to 12,000 people. I haven't heard any definite report yet, but a lot of fish were caught. 9-pound northern winning it. And again, the Tulabee filled a lot of the board, but they were getting a little smaller compared to previous years. So it's kind of neat what you see in a lake. 15 years ago, there was 2 Tulabees on the board, and it was all half-pound walleyes that would win. Mm-hmm. But now the Tulabees have kind of taken that slot over, and there'll be 80 of them on the board.
Do you think that's because of a change in populations on the lake, or do you think that's because people are targeting more now?
I think it's a change because we've had, a year where little perch would take over, then the walleyes would come back and they'd be filling the board, and it just kind of, the biology of the lake changes from year to year, and it's kind of neat to see those changes.
Well, I know that. I feel like Tulabee have gotten more popular in general for target species just all over the place. Guys are even guiding for them now. But I remember, I think it was like 2016 maybe when I fished that tournament. And I remember, thinking, all right, I'm going to target walleyes or whatever. And we ended up, wherever we were, it was real deep. And I started, it was like a change in mindset while I was there. Like I never even thought of targeting Tulabees until I think Tulabees started getting caught and started thinking about it a little bit, that. And I feel like it's just perceptions are changing on some. It's almost like the eel pout situation. Perceptions are changing a little bit on some of these fish, and the tug is a drug, right? So it doesn't always matter what you're catching on the other end. But I'll tell you what, we filmed, just a quick side note, we filmed that episode of Prairie Sportsman a couple years back where we went Tulabee netting, and then we smoked a couple of them. Those fish are delicious.
Yeah, Tulabee whitefish is amazing, and like you said too, as more people get into fishing, I think species are getting targeted more, and people have to branch out. Now it's eel pout, whitefish, those lesser things that we thought of as lesser species before now are actually being targeted.
Rough fish, basically, and I think some of that is mental. I don't want to see management shift off of walleyes personally. In Minnesota, I like them to stay the focus, but obviously as more of these other species get more popular, like burbot are listed as a game fish, I think, this year in the regs, this year or last year for the first time ever. And I'm sure we're going to have limits put on those here soon. So it's nice to see some attention paid to some of these other fish, but it doesn't mean I necessarily want the way our fish are managed to change. Does that make sense?
Yeah. You still want, walleye and crappies to be our main thing.
Right.
But the number of anglers out now and the more people out, I think you have to be more diverse. Otherwise, the fishery will just get depleted.
Well, you're not wrong. That's a 100% true statement right there. And that is something that worries me a little bit. And I don't want to get into the weeds too much here, but when we talk about R3 or recruitment, I'm all for introducing people to the outdoors. We have strength in numbers. The more people that care about the outdoors, the better when it comes to keeping these traditions alive. But man, the number of license sales the last couple of years in Minnesota are, record highs or near record highs. I think they're record highs. I don't know the true numbers on it, but they got to be right up there. And then part of that is COVID. Part of that is wheelhouses. When you have good ice and wheelhouses, you got entire families going out there and spending a weekend on the ice, and now their kids are coming out, the wives are coming out, so those are more license sales. Those are more fish being taken out of the lake. There's a lot of pressure on our fisheries right now. So, good, bad, or indifferent, I think one thing that you're going to see targeting a variety of species becoming more popular, and you're going to see lower limits on some of these popular game fish.
Yeah, which the lower limits definitely needs to be done. And it'll be curious to see with the more license sales if that money keeps up to managing the fish that we have.
Well, that's where it absolutely needs to go. And there's some new funding ideas coming from the DNR, a new funding model or something like that. They just had a a meeting about that, or a press release. I should look into that a little bit more, a press conference. But I just want to make sure that our DNR keeps going in the right direction and managing the right way and the right species. I'm a little nervous about. You always have to be a little worried about change. Even if your model is a little broken, at least you know what you have. And when they talk about these big changes in funding models or directions of the agency or whatever, you always get a little nervous about what it might end up looking like. So hopefully hopefully they fix a few issues, but don't make some big giant changes that are going to change the direction of our resources in Minnesota. And I don't think they are, but you always worry about that just a little bit. Let's talk about the resources in Brainerd though, Jamie. How's the fishing around Brainerd right now?
The fishing's actually still been pretty good. Gull, a lot of people out there camping last weekend for the tournament and in their wheelhouses, and a lot of people I know did get quite a few walleyes staying in their fish houses. The crappies are actually still going really good. We've got quite a few lakes right now putting out some really nice crappies. So for this time of year, it's good, and the slush is finally starting to freeze a little bit on some of our lakes, so a little more accessible, but it's been really slushy.
It's interesting that you say that, because just about everybody I'm talking to, we're getting into the dog days of winter when fishing slows down a little bit. Fish are pressured. They're maybe a little more lethargic. You hear about a good bite here and there, but the majority of reports I hear is that the fishing bite has been a little bit tough. But with slush on the lakes up there, Jamie, do you think that's kept the pressure off just a little bit? So maybe that could contribute to the fish being a little bit more willing to bite, or you think that's not related?
I think so. Up till last week, you could only go where somebody had plowed a road or you found non-slush spot, and even drilling holes for the Extravaganza, there was a lot of spots with 6, 8 inches, 10 inches of slush. So when that's around, you just can't go wherever you want. Even if you're hot spot somewhere, you can't get to it a lot of times unless you have a snowmobile. And even this year, four-wheelers weren't that accessible to get to good spots.
Hey, speaking of snowmobiles, how was your last race, and do you got another race coming up?
Yep, the last race, the new race sled went really good. I was happy with that my first time on it. The one that's been my nightmare sled, that one did not run so well, so we're getting a new motor built for that. And then I have the 19th, we have one in Grayville, Minnesota, so that should be fun. Okay,
well, good luck with that. I'm glad you've stayed alive and haven't broken any.
Yep.
Broken anything.
I only break bones ice fishing.
Yeah, did you break a bone ice fishing? Yeah, you did this year, didn't you?
I tried jumping across a crack on Mille Lacs and lost a couple ribs. Yeah,
that's right. Did you tell that story? Have you told that story on the show yet? You got to tell that story on the show.
I don't think so. We were out early ice on Mille Lacs and with a bunch of buddies and come to the first crack, and it looked like it was pretty, I could jump over that. It wasn't that bad. We were walking out. It wasn't safe for ATVs yet.
Yeah, but let's back up. Can we back up 1 second? Because wasn't something said to you before that day about not doing anything stupid or didn't?
No, my buddy that was with me, his wife told him not to do anything stupid.
Oh, so you were clear to do all the stupid things you want. Yeah. You had the go ahead.
So when I did it and I didn't clear the other end and I hit my ribs on the ice, I immediately said, "This is what happens when your wife does not tell you to do anything stupid." So.
There you go. Well, I'm glad you're recovering nicely. Good luck in the next snowmobile race. Thanks for the update. Nice job with the Extravaganza. Jamie Dietman, thanks for the time today on the show.
Thank you, guys.
Hear more at sportingjournalradio.com or wherever you get podcasts. 852 million acres of public land, 147 million private properties, all in the palm of your hand. The #1 hunting GPS app just got better. With hundreds of custom map layers, 3D and topographic maps, you can easily scout on the road or at home before you go. And now you can get important weather details, CWD detection, and even know what crops have been planted where. Get the most trusted hunting GPS app ever made. OnX. Know where you stand with OnX.